appreciate you jumping on. And this is actually going to be my first video blog for my website. So
nice, man. Breaking your blogging virginity.
I am. And so I'm excited to do it with you. And so I just wanted to kind of, I think
that sounded weird, but yeah, well.
Well, we'll just skip that, right?
People, it's not going to be that as good as you think it is.
But so I just kind of want to welcome you and definitely appreciate you taking the time to do it. I know I'll go a little bit in depth. Jack and I met probably online about a year ago. And, you know, some of the stuff we'll kind of talk to today about Twitter is kind of the way I met Jack. But Jack has been amazing for me to learn from, and I've learned a lot from you. So I definitely appreciate you coming on and jumping on. If you want to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do, Jack.
Yes. Well, vice versa, man. So yeah, power of social, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the, global head of B2B social sales execution at an agency called Creation Agency. So we do a lot of like data-driven marketing, sales, campaigns, email, kind of social, tying it all together. Actually, like, being able to track true ROI.
Yep.
So, my background's 12 years sales, just, was in SaaS sales. My last job was at Acton Software, made it to the President's Club, had a lot of success, really figured out about 2.5 years ago that social was the future of sales, right?
Absolutely. And
I don't mean that in a way like that, phone or email and you
got to do it all together, right?
Yeah. I just knew that it was a new innovative piece or part of the, whole picture in the sales process. Mm-hmm. So I really just, focused on using it to actually get results of revenue and, just slowly evolved, write a lot of content. And, this is just something that I'm on fire for. I call it my movement.
Absolutely. And then and that's kind of where you moved into with the Creation Agency. You were working on Acton, and they were a client of yours, and they saw you working there, or saw your personal content, your personal brand, and hit you up, right?
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, the owner, my business partner, Jason Sibley, and I, we actually met on Twitter.
Okay, awesome.
So he lives in the UK, and I actually had seen him, doing some, getting a lot of amplification on social, and I was just curiosity kind of struck the cat. And I'm one of those people that I always, like to have a conversation offline, move it offline, and kind of see if there's value there.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. I found out that he was actually owned a marketing automation agency, sold in marketing automation.
Perfect.
We built a good relationship. So not only did I get I think it was a $60,000 deal out of him, but now I'm running the U.S. division of his, his company, and he's had a lot of success. So we're doing some cool things. It's fun, but I can tell you that, this conversation is going to be around Twitter and the value that Twitter brings. And I can tell you right now that Twitter has me as the global head of a 100-person agency that's absolutely crushing it.
That's amazing. And that is what we're going to talk about today and really want to focus on is Twitter. It's how I created my brand so far. Me and Jack were talking about before, and some of you probably know just from my blog, but I only started a Twitter account last October 2015. And I was the same way. I said, I had no idea what Twitter was, to be honest. I saw it. I wasn't quite sure. I used some of the basics. I mean, LinkedIn was huge that I was using. And I didn't think, I thought Twitter was, like I've said in my blog before, what my 17-year-old daughter did, right?
I would say I thought it was for believers and Kanye rants.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't understand it until I jumped on. And actually, you were one of the first ones that I connected with on Twitter. And so it kind of comes full circle now as, I wouldn't, like we talked about before, I wouldn't call myself an expert with Twitter, but I'm definitely learning it. I'm definitely, driving a business, created a business from Twitter. Among some of the other social media channels, but predominantly Twitter. 80% of my business actually comes from Twitter. And so it's actually been exciting and a kind of a whirlwind. As you know, it's somewhat addicting. We talked about that as well. But what I want to do here is kind of give some value of how people can build their brand, whether it's a personal brand, a product, anything through Twitter. And, I get some questions every day. And so I wanted to go over a couple of these questions that I get from the audience. And with you to see how you do what you think is important, And so I'll just kick right into it. And one of the biggest ones that I see is defining metrics and KPIs through what they're doing on social, because, you can get lost in it. That's one of the biggest things that people do. Next thing you know, and we all have that thing where we've been on YouTube or even Twitter and 2 hours go by and boom, it's like, what did I just do with all that time? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to talk about and even get started about, because I know, like you've said, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Right. And so talk a little bit about how you do that specifically, if you can, around Twitter and why it's so important.
Yeah. So I was the same way as you, didn't believe in Twitter. And then, I had a good friend, Kevin Thomas Tolley. He said he had a Twitter chat going. He's like, "Oh, dude, you got to get on Twitter, man." And I'm like, "Well, I'm crushing it on LinkedIn. Why would I go on Twitter?"
Yeah. Yep. Same here.
And it changed my life. It's changed my career. I can honestly say that, I didn't even know what I was doing when I started on Twitter. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's like a scary thing. It doesn't look like it's that powerful. Yeah. But really, once you do have to invest the time into it. I will tell everybody that it's
100%.
What I like about Twitter is I think it makes people work for something.
True.
The people that are getting the major value out of, sorry, my cat. The people that are getting the true major value out of Twitter, they've invested a lot of time. They've put a lot of energy. They've educated themselves, and it's a patience game, but it's patience and consistency. I use it strictly for conversation, right? Education and conversation. So the way that I explain Twitter to people is it's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week networking event. It's the biggest networking event in the world. And it's a networking event that's actually driven by content. So you go to a conference, you hear a speaker. Twitter's the same way, but it's driven by real-time content. And that's on a variety of levels. The cool thing about Twitter is I post a lot about professional stuff, my once in a while I get into personal with, my Chelsea soccer team. But I will tell you that you connect with people through content. And what happens is the more valuable your content, the more you create conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I look at it as another way that I use Twitter a lot is that it tells you a lot about a person, what they're interested in, what do they enjoy, what's their business issue, what's their business doing. It'll tell you there's so many just pieces of data that they buy that come exactly from the buyer and what they want. And it's a personalization game in sales today. One-to-one personalization. How can I get the buyer's attention? Well, the only way you get the buyer's attention is by doing a lot of research, understanding them, and knowing how to start a conversation. And the cool thing about Twitter is it's the new medium to be able to create a conversation with I call it value versus ask. So I can actually start a conversation on Twitter by doing something for somebody, giving them some business value, some personal value.
Absolutely. And
kind of earning, the right to kind of go offline. And a lot of times my conversations, in sales and business, connecting with influencers, it all just started with a tweet, a few tweets back and forth, a conversation offline. And I wasn't even pitching most of the time because I didn't believe in it anyways. And then, things happen, referrals, direct business. Over time, you build influence. Once you build influence, you really get kind of the competitive advantage, but that takes a lot of time.
It does. I talking about that, I always kind of tell people for 7 months, the first 7 months I was at Twitter, I didn't miss a day of posting something for 7 months. I mean, it does. It takes that time to invest. It takes that time to put into it. It doesn't happen overnight. But to your point, one of the things that I do love about it is you can have a quick conversation, and it's not just Twitter. I mean, it's on every other social channel. You've got to be able to add value. And that's the biggest mistake I see with people, especially on Twitter. And I have it written down here, but it's just spamming your page with your product or what you do, or download this or download that. Not to say you can't put that stuff out, but you've got to add value so you can have those offline conversations.
Yeah. And, I think that's where people, they don't, they hear the word value, it's kind of turned into a buzzword. But when I think about value I think about something niche, right? So I started off, sharing content on social selling because it was really fascinating. That's how, 2.5 years ago when I had 9 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do, right? I just, I liked reading and learning.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people go wrong too, is they don't understand the value of the content that's on there. I mean, the content for your industry, for you to really know what's going on. And it's just amazing how much content's there.
Yeah.
But consistency is the key, right? I mean, I don't think I've never missed a day on Twitter in 2.5 years. Like I tweet, and I think this is the other thing is quality. Like, if you want to get into the Twitter world and you want to actually drive some conversation, you have to really invest time in understanding, what's your content strategy.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
If you're in finance, you have to use hashtags, right? Hashtags around finance. You pick 5 hashtags.
Good.
You only use those because what happens is hashtags, and content that's really strategically focused creates and brings the right people to you. And that's where most people go wrong on Twitter. It's like, oh, I got all these followers, but I can't figure out how to monetize it because none of them are interested in what I have to offer. So you've got to really think about, quality targeted content from the beginning. And what hashtags are you going to draw people in from those? And then you've got to just make a really big commitment, like long-term.
Yeah, and actually that's glad you talked about it, because I have hashtags written down, because not only is that one of the kind of questions I get, but that's one of the things I think you first told me when I first talked to you, when I first started off Twitter. You said, focus on a couple hashtags and, own those hashtags, if that makes sense. And I because I was all over the place. And I think a lot of people they're putting hashtags that don't make any sense, or they're changing a hashtag with every one. I do the same 3 hashtags on every single tweet almost that I put out, whether it's 3 in 1. I usually only do 2 hashtags at a time, but I'll do, within 3: social media, success, motivation, because that's kind of how I started with Twitter, is sharing a lot of success and motivation that motivated me, hoping to motivate other people, as well as then getting into social media marketing. And so, if you search in, any one of those 3 into Twitter right now, you're going to see one of my posts. Right? And that's kind of what you were talking about, is making sure that you're being an authority of those hashtags if you're going to use those.
Yeah, because what a lot of people don't realize is that the hashtags kind of like Google search, right? If you go in and you type in sales on Google, right, you're going to get a bunch of articles on sales. Well, same thing happens on Twitter. So a lot of people are using the search to find targeted content that adds business value or personal value to them. So if you can be the one that owns that hashtag, or is at least always in that feed, it's just like sales, right? It takes 10 touches from marketing before, consumers actually ever take action. So you kind of the same on Twitter, right? Is you want to constantly have quality, good content, have a professional looking background, and, you want to engage. I think this is where a lot of people, 98% go wrong, is people think that people come to you on Twitter, but they don't. So you have to become an advocate. So there's a lot of, and I think this is where I've had a lot of successes. I'm very proactive about content. So I consistently, use a little software like Feedly, which is $5.99 a month. I set up alerts and I look at it daily, or a few times a day, and I'm sharing top content that just came out from Entrepreneur Magazine, from Inc. Magazine, from Forbes. But here's where you really have to be strategic: is you have to proactively go after people that you're looking to get into conversation with. So you've got to go follow them, right? And then you've got to, retweet their content. And then the other thing is you've got to tweet out their content. So if they come out with something really, really good, or, they've written something really, really good in the past and you want to get some value out of it, it's a prospect, strategically share it, but you got to tag them in the tweet, right?
Yes.
And the thing about Twitter is there's not a lot of people doing that. So it's
true.
There's CEOs at Fortune 500 companies that will return a tweet in minutes. Yeah. You'd never get them on the phone. And the other thing is, like, people think, oh, they get a lot of amplification. Well, the sad part about Twitter right now is that they probably don't. So you're probably going to be able to stand out. And, if you're an advocate for people for so many times on Twitter, they'll know who you are. They won't necessarily always engage with you. But I always tell people the real value is not all the people that you see, that are engaged with you, but it's all the people you don't see, right?
Absolutely.
That have a lot of major value.
Yep.
Now, that comes to socially surrounding people, getting connected and, visible, valuable, and connected on multiple channels.
Yep.
Surrounding them, understanding where their sweet spot is, what's their favorite channel, where do they like to communicate.
Yep.
And then, after a little time and patience, going after them and working the conversation offline, not being scared to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Not being scared to, shoot a really personalized message. Hey, X, Y, and Z, get a ton of value out of your content.
Yeah.
I don't have any other motive, but just to pick your brain, because, I love what you're doing. I love the way you think. And I can tell you I'm a sucker for that. Anybody that personalizes a message around thanking me for my content or letting me know that I'm kind of an advocate. Oh man, I can't, help but to have conversations with people.
Well, I think everybody does, right? That's just like a basic psychology, right? People want to be gratitude. I talk about it, some of my blog posts, especially with Twitter, is you want to thank people. You want to get them. That's how you and I kind of connected, right? Is I had found you, I saw a lot of your content. I liked it. I started sharing your content, started retweeting some of your content, tagging you in some of your content. And then you and I were able to have an offline conversation. And I think we hit it off. We had a good conversation, and it's kind of gone from there, from where I've written it for a blog for you, you've written for my blog, and we've kind of gone back and forth. So it's a perfect kind of example of what to do.
Yeah, in the long-term strategy, because I tell people is like, if you're going to use Twitter, you're not going to get any instant value out of Twitter. There's nothing instant gratification. So when you're using Twitter, you've got to keep 10 years from now in mind.
Yeah.
And a year from now, it took me so long to ever realize, to see anything ever happen on Twitter. There was times where I was like, oh, I'm putting in all these hours and, I'm never going to see any business value out of this.
Yeah.
It probably took, and I shouldn't say, there were some quick wins. You get some quick.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
But as far as like long-term value and especially B2B, it took time. But now, I've built an inbound funnel. And the craziest thing about Twitter that I love, that I don't think people realize, is that if you do it right, you'll build an army. I think Jay Baer said this, but building an army of advocates. But essentially what they'll do is, if you're valuable enough, they'll actually do your marketing for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It's true. It's very true. It's very true.
And you see it, like we do employee advocacy programs for companies, and then they, build their salespeople start to, share really good content, marketing system. And you see, like, we track it on the back end, but you'll see, like, one of my companies, they have 15, they're pretty small startup, but they have 15 employees that are using the Gaggle amp. And over the last month and a half, they've had over 2.5 million impressions and 2,000 link clicks. And what's the other numbers? It's just insane, right? The traffic to their website's gone, 5x.
Yeah.
We started the program. So it's just crazy because their own team being on Twitter, and this is on LinkedIn as well. We Twitter and LinkedIn kind of hand in hand.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to see the amount of marketing value at the top of the funnel. And then, I'm always looking at the bottom of the funnel, but what I realize is that social selling, there's so much value at the top for marketing. Marketing's beating their head on the pavement to try to get content, to get people to share it, this or that, but nobody cares about a brand anymore. They want to, engage with the people around the brand. And if you use your sales team to do that, it's a powerful freaking thing. And I could go on for days about the numbers. We've done it with Samsung. We've done it with IBM. IBM's numbers are just insane. Yeah.
It's great. And now you say that, I can't remember what brand it was, but it was actual brand. And when I tweeted them, they tweeted me back, and someone had put their name there. So it actually, went to show, it's an actual person, not a brand. So, and I saw throughout their feed that whoever was responding to the tweets would actually put their name, which I thought was an amazing idea, just to kind of make that more personalized, so that people would actually apt to, I'm actually talking to a real person, instead of you're thinking you're talking to some computer.
Well, and I guess, I know that you've got a lot of small business audience. So what I would say is that if you're a small business owner, just make a commitment to Twitter. Set aside 15 minutes a day. That's all you need, right? Get a tool like Buffer. it's free. Schedule out your tweets, pull in the RSS feed, which is pulling your content.
Yep.
Or, you can get other tools like Hootsuite and integrate it with Feedly. There's so many different ways you could do it, but it's really, really simple. Educate yourself a little bit, then figure out your content strategy. What 5 hashtags are you going to use?
Mm-hmm.
And then, say, okay, I'm going to make a commitment to sharing 5 to 10. I'm going to tweet 5 to 10 times per day.
Yep.
Using, these 5 hashtags. I'm only going to tweet really good content. And so commitment's the biggest part of that. But I think that you've got to be listening. You've got to really be in tune and focused on conversation.
Yes.
With people. If you're a local business, search hashtags around your local business. Go look at the followers of the local businesses in your area.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, competitors, especially like if you're a local, nail salon, go look at other nail salons that are in your area. And then, strategically start to connect with people one-to-one, be proactive and, go, if somebody tweets out a picture, if you're in South Florida and somebody tweets out a picture of a beautiful day in Palm Springs and you're in Palm Springs, engage with them. Man, it's beautiful out. Don't pitch, just kind of do those light touches, right? Get people's attention, see what if they have a business as well, go do something for their business, retweet a webinar or something, or, if they've got a charity that they are supporting. A lot of people tweet out charities.
Yeah, share it.
Yeah, go, look for that stuff, or local charities in your area. Look for the local businesses in your area that already kind of have a social following.
Yep.
And start there. Start, to look at who follows them, who do they follow.
Yep.
Look at the city hashtags and look for the event, Google events going on.
Yep.
Look at the event hashtags in your area. If you've got a local flea market or farmers market,
mm-hmm.
And they've got a hashtag, well then follow the hashtag, right?
Yeah. Another big one, I think, if we're looking at even a local area or small business, one of the most underutilized tool on Twitter is the Twitter advanced search.
Boolean search.
People have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me because you can search, I do it all the time. I one of the classes you and I have talked about, but I teach real estate agents how to use social media. And one of the things is picking, 5 phrases that you're going to use. And this works for not just real estate, but for, other places or other businesses as well. 5 things like I'm looking to buy a new house, or, in the market, or we're finally going to do it. 5 phrases. Search those every day. And when
they're geo-targeted,
they're geo-targeted in a city. I mean, you have targeted traffic or targeted, prospects. When they come up, you can start a conversation, not just hitting them straight with, I can help you sell your house, but maybe a conversation, or maybe a link to, 10 tools that you need to buy a house, or something like that to add value. But it's amazing that people miss out on that Twitter advanced search.
Well, and then here's the other thing. And you don't have to start here, but if you're a real estate agent, my mom is, so I can tell you that I know this space very well from a social media standpoint.
Yeah.
But write blog posts that are for your local area. So, what's going on this weekend in, Small Springs, Arkansas. I don't know, like start to think about the community, and not about selling somebody a house. Think about what is some simple information that I can give to the community, because what happens is the reason I say that is because you need to have a niche audience. So people, you don't be focused on, if you're a small real estate agent, do not be focused on how many Twitter followers you have. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If you've got 100 Twitter followers that are all in your local area and they have some type of business value in the future, stay in front of them, right? Keep touching them. And the easiest way to do this, and my mom's done it amazing, and she's starting to see incredible results, is write little blogs. 5 things to do this weekend in, Small Springs, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Or 5 ways to winterize your house, and save your plants. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you that if you invest your time into content, then you leverage Twitter as another weapon in the arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Twitter ads. Twitter ads are phenomenal because the geo-targeting on them is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You live in a small town, you can run ads that are just targeted. And the cool thing is that Twitter will tell you how many people are in that area,
Yep.
and then they'll tell you their areas of interest. So, let's say you sell like spa services, you could actually go in there and say, people that show interest in spa services in Small Springs, Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
you could run targeted ads around your content.
Yes.
I have a buddy that's owns a pool business, and what he does is he's just created some simple imagery that says, hey, with a guy that's just sweating and tired and says, are you sick of cleaning your pool? Are you sick of a dirty pool?
Yeah.
You'll call us today and figure out how you'll get your first month free. Target to the local area.
Yeah.
Targets as competitors. The cool thing is
Yes.
Twitter, you can target your competitors' followers with content around paid marketing. And I can't tell you. I'd have to talk to him because he just started pretty recently. But I have to tell you that if you do it right, you target the right people with the right message.
Yep.
And you do it well and consistently, you're gonna get results over time. And to be honest, there's not that much of a money investment because the paid ads are cheap. And the other thing is, all you're really spending is your time.
Yep.
And I would rather spend my time figuring out and creating things that are of massive value to my niche audience than calling and begging people on the phone for business. It's just not my style.
Yeah, and with that content creation too, I think not only are you adding value, but it also helps with a lot of other things. SEO, it happens a lot of traffic driven to your website, depending on what it is. However, whether you're using a sales funnel and a lead pages or landing pages or just a website in a local area to drive appointments. The content creation is so important that a lot of people.
But I see, everybody always tells you like, oh, set up lead generation and landing pages and all that crap. And I'm just not sold that for a small real estate agent, maybe if they've got maybe you submit this and you get a free
house appraisal.
Appraisal or something. Then that, that's different because that is actually valuable to somebody. So they might want to fill it out. But, I don't think like the ebook thing.
Nah.
B2B, I think it's valuable, but I just don't think in the B2C kind of world that's valuable. But I will say that if you just focus on conversation, I think that's where, if you just simplify this and we'll say, okay, Twitter's the phone, right? Look at Twitter as your phone, one-to-one conversations.
Yep.
Put the bait out there. I say it's like fishing, right? Twitter's kind of the ocean.
Yep.
You've got a fishing pole. Everybody's got one, whether we use it or not, that's up to us. The bait, right, is your certain bait catches certain fish. Your hashtags and your content are your bait.
Yep.
Right. And then, the proactive aspect is actually pulling the hook. So you got to go out, engage, do some things for somebody, have the right motives.
Yep.
A little bit of patience, but then have some cojones to, after you've done all the right things, ask for something, right? I mean, and personalize your message and have the right motive. And if you've read the data right, you've read the conversations right, then you're only going to be asking people for their time that actually have, that you have something of value to offer them, and vice versa, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. So, I mean, some of the things that going over that you had kind of talked about, so people have some practical things to do is, one of the things that I liked was you going over, set the time. And I think that's for all social media to a point, but if we're focusing on Twitter, set how much time you're going to do every day, make sure you're tweeting, decide how much time you have, make sure you tweet, a certain amount of times every day and stick to that, be consistent with it. And then start conversations, even if it starts, for you to get started, if there's not a flow, pick a number. I'm going to start 5 conversations today, right?
Yeah,
and just
give yourself a KPI.
Yeah, a KPI. Something to focus on. I'm going to start, and I know I do. I'm going to start, 5 conversations today, and then from there we'll see how it goes. Or I'm going to retweet X amount of things of targeted people that I want to, engage with, whether it's for being a client, whether it's content creation, whatever it is. But give yourself some metrics and KPIs.
Yeah, and then make a Twitter list. There's a thing called Twitter list on there too, because you can actually, I think a lot of people, they engage a little bit, then they forget. Time goes by and they've literally lost all the work they've done. So
Yep.
Be very strategic and only pick a certain amount of conversations to have. So
Yes.
never be having more than 50 strategic, unless you're doing some social listening, but like really you should be focused on 50 conversations. If it's B2B, B2C, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Know your target audience, know who you're trying to get into conversation with, know who you can give value to from a business perspective, and then strategically, consistently, and persistent, leading with value, go after it and earn the right to that conversation.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, as I'm looking through my list, I mean, we hit on those engagement, how important that is. One of the things, just as you spoke about a little bit, but I just, I talk a lot about it in a lot of my blog posts, but is using some of the tools to help you, like Buffer. Buffer, I just did an article, on my blog the other day, and I always talk about Buffer. For me, it was one of the things that worked extremely well, just to be able to schedule some of the tweets that I have as I go and find the content. And then they have a content inbox that's a feed, like Jack was talking about, of different contexts, and you can pick in there. So if for me, if I'm looking at social media marketing, or success type stuff, I'm putting articles like you were talking about, Entrepreneur Magazine, Inc., those type of stuff, and looking for articles around there, so you're able to share that valuable content. So that's a huge tool, I think, with Buffer, that I know I use and I enjoy as well. And so I think those are the biggest things that I kind of want to go over today. And I definitely appreciate you, Jack. I appreciate you taking the time to, go over some of what you've learned. And it's definitely going to create some value for some people.